Hi everyone, welcome back to Rabbi's Reflection. I'm glad that you're joining with me today. We'll be continuing in our study of My Grandfather's Blessings by Dr. Naomi Remen, and today reading the story Wrestling with the Angel. Stay with us as we read through the story and then offer some reflections. Sometimes a wound is the place where we encounter life for the first time, where we come to know its power and its ways. Wounded, we may find a wisdom that will enable us to live better than any knowledge and glimpse a view of ourselves and of life that is both true and unexpected. Almost the last story that my grandfather told me was about a man called Jacob who had been attacked in the night as he slept alone by the bank of a river. He had been traveling, and when he had stopped to make his meal and settle down to sleep, the place had seemed safe enough. But it was not so. He awakened to find himself gripped by muscular arms, and pinned to the ground. It was so dark that he could not see his enemy, but he could feel his power. Gathering all his strength, he began to struggle to be free. "Was it a nightmare, Grandpa?" I said hopefully. I often suffered from nightmares back then, and had to sleep with a nightlight on. I moved closer to my grandfather and took his hand. "No, Neshumala," he answered, "it was quite real, but it happened a long time ago." Jacob could hear his attacker's breath. He could feel the cloth of his garments. He could even smell him. Jacob was a very strong man, but even using all of his strength, he could not free himself, and he could not pin his enemy down either. They were evenly matched, and they rolled on the ground and struggled fiercely. "How long did they struggle, Grandpa?" I asked with some anxiety. "A long, long time, Neshumala," he replied, "but the darkness does not last forever." Eventually it was dawn, and as the light came, Jacob saw that he had been wrestling with an angel. I was astonished. "A real angel, Grandpa?" I said, "with wings?" "I don't know if he had wings, Neshumala, but he was definitely an angel," he told me. With the coming of the light, the angel let go of Jacob and tried to leave, but Jacob held him fast. "Let me go," the angel told Jacob. "The light has come." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go until you bless me." The angel struggled hard, for he wanted badly to escape, but Jacob held him close, and so the angel gave him his blessing. I was very relieved. "Did he leave then, Grandpa?" "Is that the end?" I asked. "Yes," my grandfather said, "but Jacob's leg was hurt in the struggle. Before the angel left, he touched him on the place where he was hurt. This was something I could understand. Often my mother did this too. To help it get better, Grandpa? I asked. But my grandfather shook his head. "I do not think so, Neshumala. He touched it to remind Jacob of it. Jacob carried it all the rest of his life. It was his place of remembering." I was very puzzled by this story. How could it be that one might confuse an angel with an enemy? But grandfather said this was the sort of thing that happened all the time. Even so, he told me, it is not the most important part of the story. The most important part of the story is that everything has its blessing. In the year before he died, my grandfather told me this story several times. 8 or 9 years afterward, in the middle of the night, the disease I have lived with for more than 45 years declared itself in the most dramatic way imaginable. I had a massive internal hemorrhage. There was no warning at all. I was in a coma and hospitalized for months. The darkness and the struggle lasted for many years afterward. Looking back on it, I have wondered if my grandfather, old and close to the time of his death, had not left me with this story as a compass. It is a puzzling story, a story about the nature of blessings and the nature of enemies. How tempting to let the enemy go and flee, to put the struggle behind you as quickly as possible and get on with your life. Life might be easier then, Life might be easier then, but far less genuine. Perhaps the wisdom lies in engaging the life you have been given as fully and courageously as possible, and not letting go until you find the unknown blessing that is in everything. This story, told by Dr. Remen, originally from her grandfather, is the story of Genesis chapter 32. So if you're familiar already with that story and you were listening to it and it sounded like you had heard it before, you'd heard it in Genesis. You heard about Jacob when he's about to reunite with his brother Esau. This is so paradoxical. The message is so paradoxical because I think our intuition in life is that when we encounter something that scares us or that hurts us, we turn away from it, we flee from it, we try to forget it, we try to put it behind us or past us. But here Dr. Remen is teaching us that the wound is where we can encounter life and we can find wisdom in that woundedness. It's Jacob who wrestles with an angel and remembers that when he touches that place in his body that was wounded, he remembers the blessing that he received from the angel. And Dr. Remen then thinks about it for herself and the own pain and struggling that she has felt in her life. When we touch that wound, both physically, but here kind of emotionally or spiritually, it's there to remind us of what we've struggled with and to remind us of what we've been able to encounter and what we've been able to learn from this moment, from this struggle. As Dr. Remen's grandfather reminds her, everything has its blessings. And I think that kind of statement might be a little bit challenging when we're in the midst of the moment. If we told someone else who was struggling through something to say, everything's going to have its blessings. That might not work for someone in the heat of it, in the thick of it. But I think when we're able to give ourselves some perspective, sometimes we can get to a place where we realize that we did learn from something. This did show us something important, maybe something surprising that we didn't necessarily know about. I love that line as Dr. Remen's grandfather is telling her the story about the angel and Jacob's wrestling, when he says that they'd wrestled all night, but the darkness does not last forever. It's true in the story that the darkness doesn't last forever. The light comes, the angel realizes he can't overcome Jacob and has to let go. But it's true also for the arc kind of what Dr. Remen is talking about in terms of our emotional or spiritual relationships with being wounded. The darkness does not last forever. Light will come, and with that light comes blessing. So I wish you a good week, a time of reflection, of looking to our wounds, to those places where we fully encountered life, and to recollect them and to remember what we've learned about them and the blessings that we've received from them. Have a great week.